What is up, YouTube? Oh boy, we are gonna have a fun one today. It is currently, let's just double check this. It is currently -18, and for those of you that might think I'm probably Canadian because we sound like we're from the north, we're not. So that is Fahrenheit. We are in Minnesota, so that's 18 below Fahrenheit. So this is gonna be super fun. It's just running the blower and stuff here before we take off. Try to keep things a little bit warm for a minute, but we're gonna hit the road now. Yeah, so we're gonna try to not freeze everything up, but I would highly anticipate my water to not want to move when we get to the job site here. We're gonna be, thankfully we're not hydroing today. We're not digging holes or anything as far as I know. What I was told we're doing, so we've got Kyle in the van here. We need like 100 feet of hose to go out to reach this thing. But what we're doing is backing up drill mud for a well drilling company. So I guess they're gonna be drilling a well. I don't know why they're even working when it's this cold. That can't be very much fun, but yeah, they'll be drilling probably a water well. And as they're drilling, they put in this, like, it's usually like a bentonite mixed like mud. It's the same thing they use, I think, when they do HDD, horizontal directional drilling, like for utilities on, the shoulders of roads, and they put in fiber optic conduits and that kind of thing. So they'll be mixing and making the mud, as they're drilling. It kind of lubricates things and it helps push out all the, essentially the spoil that they make from drilling through the ground that comes out of the ground as liquid. And then we will run out, I guess we need like 100 feet of hose to run out to that, to where they're drilling. I guess we can't get the truck close enough or something. I'm not really sure, we'll have to see. But yeah, so we'll get our hose and stuff, run out to it, and then just basically vacuum up the mud as they're drilling. So that's gonna be super interesting because, again, like I said, it's like 18 below right now. It'll probably be 15 below zero by the time we get there. We got an hour 15 to get to this job. So it's gonna be interesting trying to get all of that liquid 100 feet down the hose into the truck without it just completely freezing in the hoses. So we're gonna see. It'll probably take a lot of hot water, I would assume, at the end of the day to clean out all the hoses and stuff, because what happens is whatever the temperature is outside is, obviously it's really cold right now, but as you're vacuuming stuff, especially liquid, but it does the same, mud, especially like thick mud, anything like that is horrible. But as you're vacuuming it, the higher velocity of the air going through the hose, it actually cools it down. It's the same reason you put a fan on you when it's hot out and blow air. It literally cools the air down. So like what we'll see is if I have my gloves on or something and we're cleaning out the boom when it's cold out, there's a little bit of liquid, we run water through the boom to clean the boom out. If you put your hands on it, put your gloves over it, and then, release it, just the air running by your hands going into the boom it instantly turns everything to ice. Even if it's not that cold, it could be 35 degrees out. If you put your hands and you run water kind of through that, just the higher velocity of the air will actually turn it to ice. It cools it down. So it just amplifies that when it's that cold. So as we're vacuuming all this mud, the air inside the hose, it's getting basically a wind chill. And so if it's 15 below outside, the air inside the hose is gonna be, I don't even know how that math works, but it's gonna be probably 30 below, if not colder, basically turning whatever we're sucking up into ice almost instantly. So that's gonna be fun. So I'll get with you once we get out there. We'll have to run the hose, take the hose out of the van, run it out, string it out, set it up, get the truck going. I'm gonna have to run my water to try to keep that from freezing. So I'm mostly concerned with just the time it takes to get here. The issue is with this new truck, they don't have a recirculation system. So this thing basically, the idea with it is to just keep all the water, it's stationary, but keep it hot, or just at least keep it above freezing. And they do that by putting everything inside heated cabinets. So like the main thing is the burner coil. On all of our other trucks, they actually have the burner coil outside, exposed, or it's in a cabinet, but it's not heated. And the issue with that is if you were to just drive around like that when it's cold out, that would just freeze even if everything else is warm. So what the other trucks do, all the other manufacturers, is they run you can recirculate your water in various ways. Some have a auxiliary PTO, some just run it off the same hydraulics as when you're running your boom. But either way, they literally just keep the water recirculating, and that way it doesn't freeze. It doesn't even have to be warm. It just keeps moving, so then it just doesn't freeze. That's why, the top of rivers will freeze with the water underneath still flowing. It's moving. So this truck doesn't do that. So they have everything inside heated cabinets, which is great, and that works fine in my experience with this thing, down to like 0, maybe single digits. It seems to be okay, but once you get below that into the negatives, especially the double digit negatives, by the time I get to the job site, there's something somewhere that's froze up. Probably not a lot, but it's froze up at least a little bit. So when I try to run my water pump, it just doesn't, it's just hammering against, an ice chunk somewhere in the line. So I am almost certain that's what's going to happen today. I've even gone through and where they have holes in these cabinets, like for where the hydraulic controls, the manual hydraulic controls are in a cabinet with my water reel, and they basically have a big hole, for all those hoses to get outside to then go to where they need to go. And that hole it's oversized, so all the hoses go through it, but then there's still, you could slide a softball through the gap in the hole. It's pretty big. So that lets too much cold air in, from what I can tell, because you have heaters in there and they're pumping hot air, but even still, my engine temp is still, I can't even get up to normal operating temp. So then you have that fighting you too. It's like, normally I'm sitting at, it'll get to 180, 190 as I'm driving, and I have the truck working, pulling a load. But yeah, it's only at 160 right now, which is pretty cold. Something's buzzing. But yeah, so it's gonna fight me today. So once we get out there, what the hell? Oh, we're sitting on ice. God, that was spinning. Wow. Yeah, it's cold out. So anyway, like I was saying, I've kind of stuffed some towels and stuff in some of those holes to try to sort of insulate it more and keep more of the heat in. But even with that, when it's this cold, I've not been super successful at keeping it from freezing. So we'll get out there and I'm gonna try to fire the water pump as soon as I get there. And then I can recirculate my water when I'm stationary. I just can't run that hydraulic pump while the truck is moving. So once we get there, if I can get the water moving, I'll put this fitting on my water fill valve, and I can hook my water hose up to it and recirculate the water, turn my burner on, get the water hot, and that'll do something. That'll keep it from freezing. But this is the issue, is driving to and from wherever we're working, especially if it's far away. So I'll touch base and fire this thing up once we get out to the job site, and I'll show you guys kind of how that works. All right, so we were working here for a little bit. Fire this thing up. So we did a couple of these already. They're just kind of pre-drilling these casings for some wells that they're going to be putting in. So it's gone pretty good. Figured I'd just kind of get things rolling here before I got the camera out, but I'll go ahead and I'll film this whole next one that we do. It should be pretty cool. I've actually never seen them doing this part of the process before, so I will hop out here, we'll fire it up and show you guys what's going on here. Do this to keep some heat in the cabinet. This thing was real froze up once I got here, just like I thought. But just icy. But we'll recirculate. Keep it from freezing up while we're on site at least. Is that enough? Is that enough hose?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So is that opening big enough you don't have to use that rod? You don't have to use that big rod this time with that?
No, there's just no water in there.
Oh.
If MDH would show up and see me doing like this, they'd yell at me. But there's no fucking water down there. So.
Sure. So that was just one of these casings they're putting in to do a well. You gotta drive around here on this nice log road. But so we did 2 of them before I started that video. We've got 1 more to do here, so I'm just gonna I'll just film that one, and then I will fire the camera up kind of once we're done with this stuff. But otherwise it's just the same thing over and over. We're just doing like 4 of the same thing, so hopefully that one video kind of give you the whole start to finish of setting up their truck and then doing what we're doing. So we're playing a pretty minimal role here today, but either way it's kind of interesting. I've never actually been on site with them to see the whole start to finish of, you know, actually drilling something, given they weren't actually drilling these wells here, at least right now. They're just getting those initial casings kind of set, and then they're cementing those in, cutting them off, and then later they'll come back and actually drill the wells. I guess what they're doing is they're dewatering this, I guess, the area, because when must have been the power company was coming through and they're replacing this line, this overhead high voltage line. As you can see, this next pole right here next to my truck. But when they do that, they drill out like these massive casings. They're 4-foot diameter, 5-foot diameter. They drill those down to, usually for this size, I would think about 20 feet when I've done those in the past. And then they fill that thing with concrete, and they set their rebar cage and all that kind of stuff with their bolts and everything. So they basically will then just bolt these poles onto this big concrete foundation. Or sometimes with a different type of them, they'll end up just using an extra leg of the steel pole, and if they just do a casing, they'll put the pole in they'll use like a big steel culvert, and then they'll put rock around it, and then basically just do that. So the pole itself goes down to 20 feet, and then it's rocked in, versus I'm pretty sure at least what they're doing with these is they're concreting them in. So they'll get this down, concrete the rebar and everything, then bolt that thing right up to it and replace this. But the issue here was when they drilled this one down, I assume it's probably just this one because the next one's up there. You can see kind of go up this hill. So I don't think they had the issue there. And then same thing behind me, they kind of go up the hill again. So this is kind of in the valley. And what it sounds like was happening is when they were drilling their big casing down, it's right underneath, it's right next to the left side pole here. They must have hit water pretty shallow, I guess. So I don't know, I would think it was only down probably 5 or 6 feet from kind of where we're at. So they hit water, which then makes it next to impossible to finish drilling their casing, sinking that down to then finish what they're trying to do. So they brought these guys in, this Trout, to come in and drill these wells, and then it sounds like they're going to use those to dewater this area, I would assume temporarily, so that they can finish drilling their casing, setting their concrete, and then replacing this pole, and then I assume just kind of decommissioning the wells that they're drilling here right now. So I think that's kind of what's going on. This is a little bit different than what I'm used to, but either way, it's still pretty cool to see how they're doing this out here today. So we're just waiting. I'm gonna wait for them. We're taking lunch break now. They're gonna take their truck, drive down up in front of me, and then back in. Then we're doing one more well kind of just in front of this left structure here on that power line, that power pole there. So we'll set that up, get that one done, and then I think that'll be it for me today. It's still, what is it, -4 right now, -5. So we're out of the thick of it, but it was a challenge. I didn't film here this morning, but I really had to mess with my water to get that going. It was very frozen, but I basically just turned the pump, build some pressure, try to get it heated up, relieve the pressure, drain some water, it's just kind of finagling to get the water to move again. But then once we get the water going, I hook up, I've got a little coupler that I can hook onto my water fill cam lock to then go to my quick connect for my water line, hook that up, and I can just run my water pump with the burner on, heats my water up, and then just dumps it back in the tank. So then it essentially will eventually warm up the entire water tank. It's just a really, really slow process, but keeps it moving, it keeps it from freezing. So we should, I'm hoping we'll be good for the rest of the day. I'll probably fire that up here in just a minute, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little recap of what was going on here, and then I will fire the camera back up again once I'm actually done with this, and then we head out to go dump this. It'll be interesting dumping this because when the last part of that video, you'll see once they set their final casing in, they were pumping in their cement mixture, and then we were kind of vacuuming it off at the top so it doesn't overflow and then spill down into this farm field or this ditch here or whatever. So I have a little bit of cement in my tank, and it's 5 below zero. So hopefully it'll be tough to dump this out. I'm sure it's going to be all frozen in the tank. But I don't have any sugar on me. I learned that from years ago doing these power lines with some of the other Excel guys, because we'll do that when they pour their casings and they pour the concrete in. We'll end up kind of vacuuming the water, because they'll usually pump the concrete below water, and then they use the water to give the concrete head pressure, so it keeps everything settled. And then as they pump the concrete and then the water comes up, we'll vacuum the water off at the top so it doesn't spill out. And when they do that, eventually you end up with kind of a concrete slurry mixture. And people have told me that if for my application, if I suck up, vacuum up like a 1 or 5 pound bag of sugar, the sugar will kind of make the concrete not set, which is very helpful for me because I have to dump this out of my truck. I don't want it to set. So I always forget that when I go to do things like this, and I don't know exactly what we're doing, but I really need to just get a couple bags of just sugar to keep somewhere in the truck. For situations like this, I would just cut the bag open and suck up a bag of sugar just to make my life easier when I go to dump this, but I didn't do that, so I'm gonna have a fun time dumping this out today. So I will catch up with you guys once we're all done wrapped up over here. All right, well, we are all done now. They finished up that last well, so we are done for the day. So I'm gonna keep this camera going because this this exit here is a little interesting. So I had to flip the truck around just a minute ago before we came over here to do this one. I had to back out of here and then turn the truck around, and that was really the only place I could do it, right like on this kind of hill here. It was pretty sketchy, but we got it done. It's just when you're backing up or if you're braking at all and you have your wheels turned or anything, when you're doing that, you have no steering. It just slides around everywhere, which is kind of scary when you're on this steep of a hill here. But yeah, so got it out. So I'm just gonna power through this. As long as they don't start spinning, it should be in good shape. That should do it. Yep. Okay. So that worked. But yeah, so you could see this one here is what they're gonna be doing on that one. So it's like I don't know, it's probably bigger than I thought. It's probably about a 6 foot diameter casing that they're putting in, and then they pour the concrete with they have a big rebar cage, And then they set their bolts in it and everything, so they just bolt this thing down. But yeah, that big pier right there is, if I had to guess, it's probably down about 19 to 22 feet. So that's a lot of concrete there, man. Talk about a big pour, you're filling, I mean, do the math on that. I don't know, it's a few trucks of concrete, I'm sure. I haven't been on one of those for a little while, but when Excel goes through and does these lines, man, they over-engineer everything. It's pretty nuts. So, but then you won't have to do it for probably another 100 years or whatever. These are obviously, the stuff they replace now is engineered better than obviously it was originally, and the original stuff probably sat here for 60 years or something. I mean, it's probably been a while since they were originally put in. I doubt they were ever replaced, so they over-engineer it, and you know, it's quite a project to go through and do one of these lines like this. So they just kind of overdo it, do a little overkill, and just do it once. So they're gonna be drilling the wells, I think tomorrow, he said. So I don't know if I'll be back down here or not, but it sounds like someone will come out here and probably do more actual drilling mud, vacking, than what we were doing today. This is just kind of to help them not make a mess, basically, as they were putting those casings in. So we'll see if we come out here tomorrow to do that. But yeah, this entrance here, this gets a little dicey. Pulling the truck in here this morning was a little sketchy. It's God, that's a steep thing, and these vac trucks are interesting because they're so long. My wheelbase is so long, and then I have, like on this truck, I have 2 axles in front of my drive axles. So, and then I have the big tag axle in the very back. So when I go up this, my front 2 lift axles are gonna roll and kind of scrape on this, and then the rear one's probably gonna hit the ground as I get my steer axle up towards the road. And that's fine. I mean, they can roll and spin and stuff, but it's just, I don't want my rear bumper to get dug in here. So yeah, this is God damn, that is so steep. I don't like that at all. Oh my God, that's like a fucking 6-foot incline. Uh-oh. Let's do that one. Where is it? Maybe not. Probably doing that wrong. Yeah, this is sketchy. I'm gonna put a little more of a run at it. Yeesh. How was that?
Oh, it was a tight one.
Was that axle just totally off of the ground and spinning?
Yes.
That's like a 6-foot incline.
Oh, at least. Yeah, when I came back up to it, I was like, we made this?
Yeah. Well, I called him and he's like, well, we got our trucks down here. It's like, and I know they've got that big tri-drives. Like, well, I guess we'll go for it. That's dicey though. So, well, I'm gonna dump this out and then that'll be it for today. So,
Sounds good.
Alrighty, I will see you at the shop. Yeah, that was a little sketch, but just need a little run at it, I guess. Well, it seemed to work okay. So, all right, well, I just have to figure out now where I'm gonna go dump this, and that'll be it for today.